I didn't get a court summons or anything. I didn't understand what was happening. All of a sudden, we just drive in front of this thing that says family court, and I did. My parents and I. I was coming home from school, and I seen them driving up this road, And so I asked them where they were going, and they said, "Oh, well, let's go somewhere," They were being very nice, and so I thought they were being nice. So I get into the car, and we go driving along, and they're talking about the scenery and the trees and watching these birds flying around. Then all of a sudden, you're standing in front of this big building, family court, never heard of it before, And I asked them what I was doing here, and they says, "Oh, we're taking you to court." I says, "Oh, yeah." I thought they were just going to, have a cop talk to me to kind of scare me or something like that, I didn't realize it was real at all. And when the judges talked to me, I thought he was just fooling around at first. Then I realized he was serious. They thought I was going to run or something like that. Like there was this one couch. I had to sit in the middle, and I was thirsty because I was a bit nervous, I couldn't get a drink or anything because they thought I was going to leave, And they just tried to scare me the whole time. Like we seen this magistrate walking by, And my mother told me how he's for the Supreme Court or something like that. He says he takes care of the really bad people who start off as juvenile delinquents. She's going on like this, Just went in one ear and out the other because I was, in a daze. Yeah, I was shocked. Because that's something you just don't think it'll happen to you. Like you go down the street and you see some car accident, you think, "Oh, that never happened to me." And then what happens to you, you don't believe it, I just couldn't believe it was happening. We had to go in and sit down and wait for the judge to call us in. It's just a big room. There's no jury or anything. It's just 2 benches. One for the convict or whatever, the kid that's getting charged, and then one for the parents, And then there's this little box outside this table where the judge sits there. And then there's this man who stands right there. He's the man that goes out and yells your name, for you to come in. And there's a lady, she's doing shorthand. She writes down everything. And that's all that was in the court. I just kind of sat there, and then the judge said something. Can't remember what. And then all of a sudden he says, "Okay, we're going to come to order," or something like that. And this lady gets out her pen, And then he calls me up and asks me a couple of questions, how old I am and stuff like that. And I told him when I was born and all like that. And then, first it started out like a friendly conversation, And then all of a sudden he says, "You are being charged with unmanageable," and all this crap. And he goes on and on. I didn't say anything. It was, I was trying to think, in my mind, all these definitions were going through my head, unmanageable, trying to figure out what the hell he was talking about. I couldn't see anybody saying you're unmanageable in court. I can see them saying you robbed a bank, you killed someone or something like that. But I couldn't see, it just didn't sounded weird. I wasn't prepared for it or anything. I thought that they were just going to kind of scare me a little bit, Yeah, my mother got up there. And she started cutting me down, and I realized that she was serious. Because my father, he didn't cut me down too much, He just said bad stuff about me, But my mother, she really started picking at the nitty-gritty, Then I realized, that she's kind of serious. They just told them how I ran away from home and they didn't like my friends I was with. And how I was influencing my little sisters against my parents and stuff like that. And just talking about how I always wanted to go out, but how I wasn't allowed out of the house anyways, And so they just told him how I was always asking if I could leave, just go outside for the night or something like that. I couldn't go, But my school workout was deteriorating and all that stuff. They tried to blame it on my girlfriend, but it wasn't her at all. Because I never was interested in school. So I never did any schoolwork, I had about 3 weeks to go before I was 16. I hated their guts, but then I started thinking to myself, well, maybe if I do what they say, maybe if I'm good and go to school and everything, that maybe if I hold in there for 3 weeks longer and kiss their feet and, kiss them goodnight and all this rot, then nothing will happen to me. Like when I got out of the court, I had these dreams, that I was going to turn out really, really good and I wasn't going to go back to court and I was going to do everything they said. And then when I turned 16, I was just going to take off, They'd never hear from me again. When we went to the psychiatrist, the judge told us to go see a psychiatrist, because, I don't know, he thought I must have been crazy or something. Anyways, on the way there, I didn't say much in the car. I didn't say anything in the car. My father told me that no matter what I told the psychiatrist, he had heard worse than what had happened to me, so nothing would shock him, All I can remember was saying, well, aren't you lucky, to my father. But when I got to the psychiatrist, all he could talk about was his own kids and how good they are and all this stuff. It was just an ordinary little office with these really cushioned chairs, and a desk, and you have pictures of his family all over the place, generations of people, And he was a little old man with gray hair, all bent up, with glasses, And he was sitting there and he says, I remember the first thing he said to me, he says, "What would you think if you were married and had kids, and all of a sudden they took off? And next thing you knew is the Mounties from Saskatchewan phoned saying that your daughter was out there. What would you think of that?" And I didn't say anything, what the hell, So she's out there, Because I knew damn well he was talking about me, And he sits there and says, "Well, if my children did that, I don't think I would want to ever see them again." I says, "Yeah?" And I says, shit, why not, And he says, "Because my children," he says, "all my life I have tried so hard for my children to grow up good and all this stuff, and I've worked so hard for them, and I've given my love and life to them and all this stuff, And he says, and then all of a sudden they turn around and leave. Like my parents had been talking to him before, shooting him all this crap, what they've been doing to me." And I says, "Yeah, but what happens if the parents haven't been doing that?" And he says, "Well, when your parents were talking to me, they said that they had done everything they could have, and you just rejected it." And I figured, well, hell, I'm not going to talk to him because right away he believes my parents and not me. So what's the use, So I didn't say much after that. Oh yeah, he told me about training school. He said that if I went there, he said that I would most likely be let out by the time I turned 16. Then I was thinking, well, if I did get there, I haven't got anything to worry about. I only got about 2 or 3 weeks, But man, he was lying. He told me that if I asked to go to training school, it would be better for me and my parents and society or something like this, He talked a lot about society. But he said that if I fought, then that wouldn't be right, because he says, adults know what is best for you because they were once your age, he says. They have lived longer than you have, so they know exactly what to do with you, And I remember asking, well, how can they know exactly what to do with me? This great big vast majority of people, they don't even know me, He says, well, we learn these things through experience. And I didn't even like him. All he could talk about was his kids and society, How I should contribute my little bit to society like everybody else does, Well, society was going to lock me up anyways, He was a fool. The judge had said, bring her back again, a couple of weeks after that. And so my parents phoned in the judge. They phoned him and made the appointment earlier so that I could be sent up earlier, I guess, before my birthday, And so I went back to court, and the judge says, why are you bringing her back early? And my parents says, well, the judge gave me a curfew, be home by 11 o'clock on weekends. But there was this dance, you see, and I was about 15 minutes late. Not very late at all. But my father got up and he told the judge that I was 40 minutes late, 45 minutes, something like that. And I wasn't. Because my sister was with me even, and she'd know. My friends would know too. What else there? And the day after court, my father got this little piece of paper. And everything I did wrong, like maybe I kicked the dog, or maybe I slapped my little sister or yelled at her, or maybe I was seen taking a quarter, stuff like that. Just little minor stuff. He'd write it down. Like if I didn't bring home any books one night, any homework, he'd write it down. Then he'd sit there and he'd threaten me with this stupid piece of paper, how he's going to show it to the judge and everything, and how it's going to be, really a lot of trouble and stuff because of this piece of paper. But that piece of paper finally got destroyed. I can't remember which court session it was, but one of them, I was allowed to say something for myself. But I was in shock, and I tried to talk, but I couldn't say anything. It came out, but not in a sentence, just a bunch of mumble jumble, And he didn't understand what the hell I was talking about, so he starts telling me all this crap about other people he knows, Like I said how I wanted to go outside at nighttime and all this crap, and I wanted to have fun and all this crap, but my mother wouldn't let me. And so the judge says, oh, that sounds pretty good to me, He says, I know this man who's 21 years old and he has to be home at 9 o'clock every night. And I says, he's crazy to stay there, And he says, no, he isn't. He's in the RCMP. He knows how to discipline himself. And that really bugged me because it was my court case. I didn't give a damn about this other guy, you know? Especially 20 years old. He's nuts. He has to be nuts, you know? And the judge couldn't see why, you know, I wanted to go out or anything like that. Like, my father had this cute little trick so we couldn't go out. We could go out if we could get a drive home. And the only person who was allowed to drive us home was our father. So our father would say, well, I don't feel like driving. In other words, you can't go out tonight, you know? And he'd do that all the time. You know, when I got there, I didn't know how to defend myself. I just kind of stood there, you know, just gave a stupid story, you know, which was true, you know. I understand what I was talking about, but nobody else could understand. There is this stupid law, you know, that any juvenile who is in court cannot have a jury, cannot have newspaper reporters, because they don't want to make it public. They don't want everyone to know that this juvenile was in court. You can't have a lawyer in court unless your parents want it. This judge was retarded because he should see that these parents brought this kid up and she asked for a lawyer and the parents would not let her have a lawyer. So obviously right there, the parents are hiding something. They're scared. They know they're going to lose, so they won't let the kid have a lawyer. And I didn't even think of a lawyer until the end, you know. But then it was supposed to be too late or something like that. The judge said to my father, do you think this child is unmanageable? And my father says yes. And so the judge called me up and he says, okay, I'm committing you to training school. And then he sat there and said, I hope you all learn something from this and become a fine young lady and all this stuff. And he's going on and on and on. I asked for a lawyer. And he says, you'll have to take it up with the school authorities. And I says, well, can I have a lawyer when I'm 16? And he says, he doesn't know. And he just went on and on. And I asked him how long I'd have to stay there. And he says, well, you could be in training school until you're 18 years old. And he's going on and on and on like this. No, it's scary. He's trying to scare me. So finally, then he says, court is over or something like that. And that was over. Then at the end, you know, I said something like, what am I unmanageable for, you know? And then my father says, well, it's not that you're unmanageable. And he says, I want to tell you what the feelings are like between you and me. And he says, I have certain responsibilities to you as a parent. I have to clothe you and feed you and educate you and all this crap. You know, he's going on and on and on. The judge says, why don't you talk to your daughter afterwards? And I said I didn't want to speak to him again in my life. And I never have spoken to him after that.